Or is there any? Just give us a sec here, please. Are there any errors or omissions from the minutes for the November 22nd, 2021 Citizens Advisory Committee? So I got one question on because the fact that all the minutes are listed to be signed by Chair Leach and Acting Corporate Officer Matucci. Do we get those changed?
That would be a question for the CAO. Unfortunately, I don't think she's here this afternoon.
3 o'clock.
Pardon me?
She had a meeting at 3. So
Okay, so maybe that ran late.
Oh, sorry, Ian, I did notice something and I did want to bring it to the attention. Okay.
please do.
Under Citizens Advisory Committee 4.1 terms of reference, it says second paragraph. Committee discussed the makeup of the membership of the committee, the selection process, and whether there can be alternates. It was determined that if someone can't continue on the committee would discuss potential alternative names to recommend to council for appointment to the vacated seat. I remember the discussion. I remember coming to a conclusion. I'm not sure if that was what we agreed to, and I wouldn't mind hearing from others who were there, but that isn't what happened. We did not discuss potential alternative names, and the names that were presented were not from this committee. So that's an error somewhere.
I know that Leslie just entered the meeting, so she's here now.
It's just what spoke to that. Just what her hand is up.
So my recollection of the discussion we had that day was we were talking about if someone couldn't make a meeting, should they send an alternate? And our conversation said that no, if a member couldn't make a meeting, the seat would just stay vacant. However, in the case of someone not being able to commit to the committee and continue, then another person would be appointed. I don't recall we discussed who or how that process would happen, but just that an appointment would be made to fill a vacancy.
Is this accurate from what you can see?
No, I find that it's somewhat misleading. I think it needs to be reworded to say that the committee discussed the makeup of the membership of the committee. In the event a member couldn't attend, the seat would sit vacant. In the event that a committee member resigned or couldn't continue, an alternate would be appointed.
I remember it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So did we get that copy down for the minutes? So we don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and the meeting is also being recorded, so we can also go back and look at that discussion again.
Anything else for those minutes?
So can I speak to that committee? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Committee member Harrison.
So I noticed that I was put on here to represent the artists. When I had the discussion, I had a discussion with Robert about representing the seniors, since I'm already on that board that was looking for seniors housing. And I also noticed they're not represented on here. So I just would like some feedback on that.
All of you are the only ones that feels like they're out of place in what the designated title was.
Okay,
I, for example, said that I didn't think the businesses were, the brick and mortar businesses were represented here at all. So I'm not sure the title is as important as the member.
okay, well, I'm fine with that. As long as I can bring up in future meetings about the senior housing, which we hope, some of us are hoping will be resurrected down the road. I don't know if Ian wants to speak to that or not.
Anything else?
No, I know that.
No, but like the chamber has like.
I don't want to speak to the senior housing, but in talking to Robert, I think what he looked for was just a cross section of people. And because you're representing pulled from one place, you still represent every resident that's been displaced and the people who are still living in this town. Okay. it's not-
Okay, well, I'm fine with that. That's
Yeah.
good then. Just so as I just wanted to clarify that. I
anything
just
else?
wanted clarification, so that's
Yeah.
satisfactory for me, yes.
You're good to go.
Okay,
Mr. Hogan has just joined the meeting. Now we got a quorum here. We can unplug the scene. So anyway, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes for the November 22nd, 2021 Citizens Advisory Committee
As
as
amended.
amended?
I'll make that motion, Sheila.
Thank you. Next one, we've got the minutes for the December 1st, 2021 Citizens Advisory Committee. Is there any errors or omissions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes for the December 1st, 2021 Citizens Advisory Committee? Committee member McCann makes the motion. So I gotta call the question, get a vote on both those, don't I?
We haven't been, but I'm not sure.
We haven't had minutes before.
The other end, we got mentioned. Madam CAO,
Yes, it's Leslie.
we're taking the minutes, we're adopting the minutes, so we get one person to adopt it. Do we still need to vote on it for the committee?
I think it would be prudent if you did, to make sure everybody's in agreement to them.
So if people look out friendly, back up to 3-1. All in favor, down to 3-2, all in favor? Thank you, all passed. So what I asked for is to be able to do a report. I'm gonna try and get reports into our agendas from now on, so people can be brought up to speed. So I'm just gonna take a couple of minutes if I can. First, I want to thank committee member Taylor for setting up here in the high school. It's nice to see we got 2, 4, 6 of us, which is a heavy quorum, probably the first meeting back in good old Litten since the fire. So some of you may be surprised to see me sitting in this chair today. At the December 1st meeting, I was appointed by council as the alternate chair for the CAC. This brings me to the reason I am sitting here. Council has worked and is working extremely hard on behalf of the residents of the village of Litten. Although for some, results may not be forthcoming fast enough, and that is quite normal. Councillor Leach has dedicated his position on council to serving the residents in a highly professional and competent manner, always placing the welfare and needs of the residents above his. He readily jumped into the breach and volunteered to chair 2 committees, as well as carrying out his responsibilities on council. Due to some finger pointing to an action taken by him several months ago, he has found it best to resign his position from the village of Lytton Council. I, for one, am going to miss his cheery mannerism and his wealth of knowledge and dedication to the residents of the village. He will sorely be missed by his fellow council members, I am sure. So here I am, and I plan to carry on the same professional and high standard Councilor Leach maintained in getting this committee up and going. There are some minor aspects of the procedure utilized by the committee which I feel is relevant to the success of the committee's reaching and completing its mandate. If I get off topic here too far, Madam CAO, Madam Recovery Manager, jump in and put the reins on me. I believe the terms of reference need to be tightened up in order for the committee to remain focused on the mandate provided to it by the council. I shall work with both the CAO and the Recovery Manager to flesh this out over the next couple of weeks and get the new terms of reference into your hands, that is the committee, well before our next meeting. Discuss it at the next committee meeting. And once it is agreed upon new set of terms of reference, I shall take them to council meeting for their acceptance. So please, please committee members, feel free to contact me between now and the 27th of December with any inclusions you may want to see as part of the committee's terms of reference. I also would like to get everyone's contact information. That means I'm off stage. The shepherd's crook just got me in the neck and away I went. I can't see. I'll just give it a second. We're gonna do some calisthenics. Right there we are, right back with you. So I'd like to get everybody's contact information, and Madam Recovery Manager was kind enough to send me out everybody's email address, but if you could send me your cell phone, just in case I can't get to that way. The reason I want that, I do not plan on doing anything in isolation. I want to be able to forward each of you any and all information, documentation concerning the mandate of this committee. Our primary responsibility is to find out the residents' wishes, check out their validity, prepare an in-depth assessment, listing pros and cons, get a majority agreement from the committee, accepted via a motion, which will be taken to the CAO, and together we will prepare it for the regular council meetings agenda. As first a recommendation from the committee and a suggested motion for council. If council accepts the recommendation and passes the motion, we will follow the action taken. If council does not accept the committee's recommendation, it will appear on our next committee agenda under unfinished business. And the committee can either make required changes to it, gather more information, or reword it for resubmission to council. It will stay on the unfinished business part of the committee's agenda until it is either accepted by council or the committee decides to withdraw it. Hopefully, Madam Recovery Manager, I'm not going to catch you off guard in this one. I've asked Madam Recovery Manager to place my personal email address up in the chat room, asking anyone in attention or anyone in attendance of the meeting to make contact with me and provide me with their contact information. CSE has a responsibility to be the go-between for the residents, between the residents and the council. I will take the information and compile it into a list and hopefully distribute it to the members, so we have personal contact with our residents, something which was the biggest complaint right after the fire. And anybody that is listening on here, please pass this on to anyone you know. We'd like to get the person's name, the number of people in the family, the email address, cell phone number, and the best time to be contacted. It is realized that not all residents are able to attend these meetings. So I ask you people to pass this along to those you know or are in contact with, so we can get the information compiled as soon as possible. I realize this has been attempted before through surveys, but not everyone has replied. And this committee is responsible to all our residents. I believe in the interest of time during our meeting, it is best for me to go down the list of committee members for their comments on what we are discussing or to question the guest speaker. If when I get your name, you are not ready, please let me know and I will move you to the end of the list. Once a motion is on the floor within the committee, the person who presents the motion will speak of it, and then we will go through our list of that person getting a chance to speak again at the end. This is not meant to trick or center anyone out, but to allow us to get through topics in an orderly and timely manner. I am your representative to the council, and being so, I choose not to bring any motions forward at the committee and will not be voting at committee meetings unless required to do so in the event of a tie. I will carry the committee's recommendations to council and present them in a formal way. If not accepted, I should be able to report back as to why it was not accepted. So please use me as your point of contact for all matters to do with the committee. Lastly, I just want to go over what I consider to be the timeline and how things should flow. Our meetings are scheduled for the first and third Wednesdays of the month. Anything you may want added to the agenda should be to me by the previous Saturday by 6 p.m. I take this and forward it on to Madam CAO for inclusion in the agenda for our meeting that Wednesday. She produces that Sunday night and gets it out usually on Monday. We meet on the Wednesday. Any recommendations from the committee must be to Madam CAO early Friday morning in order to be included on the regular council meetings agenda, and I will be working with her on that. The recommendations will be the formal part of the regular council meeting, and I will be able to add any further information during the report from committee portion of the regular council meeting. I will submit the results of the regular council meeting to Madam CAO by that Sunday in order to be included in the agenda for our Wednesday meeting. And this will allow us the information to flow and be fluid. Thank you for your time. I didn't mean to bore you with that. So moving on to number 4, business arising from the minutes. Madam Recovery Manager.
Yes, sir, Councillor.
You're going to do an update short-term recovery plan.
I certainly can, yes. So there's been a lot of sort of exciting updates over the past week or so. As everybody knows, we were able to rescind the do not consume order, which I think was a great milestone for the village. And we're really, really excited that the water is back up and running for the community. I think that's a really big step. So that's great. So we have a couple things we are working on. Of course, as you know, we brought on our new project manager, James High, from the Lillooet area, and he is arranging for a couple of integrated project team meetings to be held next week, specifically dealing with the water infrastructure on Wednesday and the debris removal on Tuesday. So all of the stakeholders are going to be at both of those meetings, and the project manager has a very step-by-step plan in place for that, for those two processes. So we're very excited to get those underway. The reservoir damage from the atmospheric river event is currently being addressed, And I know the debris, the intake from the debris has been cleared out. If it hasn't already, it will be very soon. Happy that a number of the infrastructure things we had in place were not damaged, including the screen and some of the areas around the dam. So happy to see that. In terms of interim housing, I don't have an update on that as yet. I received the findings of the survey that was conducted by EMBC. And so I'm currently preparing a report on that. It's 32 pages so far. So it's going to be a lengthy report, but it's I think it will give us some very, very good information to work from. And I expect to have that out shortly. The Resiliency Center, as you are all there right now, I think is going very, very well. We have a DPS disaster psychosocial report supports coming back out on Monday and Tuesday of this coming week. And they will be in the community weekly until they're no longer needed. The Red Cross will be there from the 20th through the 23rd. And I know that Denise is doing a lot of wonderful things around the holiday and things like that. So that's great to see. The Unmet Needs Committee is about to be formed. We unfortunately have only had one response to the call out for volunteers to sit on the Unmet Needs Committee. So would love to see additional responses to that. And if anyone has any additional questions on that, I'm happy to try and answer them. Yeah, so if I think that was about it for me at this time, for as far as the recovery update. And I think,
Would you feel questions from the committee?
of course, yep.
Thank you so much. What I'm gonna do is I'll just go through, so committee member, back to your first. You get a break, lady. You won't be first every time.
Oh. I'll pass for now.
Okay. Committee member Harrison.
Jade Baxter. and-
Yeah, I do have a question about the
Oh,
team
there,
that's
sorry.
coming out to the Resiliency Center. Sounded like counseling team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are they available by phone, or is that just?
I believe so, yeah. If you contact Denise, I'm sure she could arrange even a Zoom meeting with those supports.
Okay. Like so they're doing counseling with the citizens for trauma?
Yeah, I don't know that they are actual counselors, but they are going to be making connections as needed with those professionals.
Okay, so let me just be clear then. It's people coming in that will make the contact for the citizen with a counselor.
I believe that's the case, yeah.
Okay, I'll contact Denise and make sure about that.
Be
Okay,
a bit.
thank you.
No problem.
Committee member Hogan. Committee member Lightfoot.
I just wanted to make a comment about that last question. I know there were two women came in that were in merit just previous to coming into our room. And during the day, there were several people came in. One of them, they went for a walk with and talked about things. They left a couple of cards with numbers, and they said many times they just interact with people over Zoom or FaceTime or whatever's convenient. So I did a screenshot of those two business cards, and perhaps I'll send it to Allison and it can be shared with the committee. That's
Sure.
all. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions at this time other than, well, actually I do. Give me time. I can think up a million. I'm sorry. Village office. The Resiliency Center is really great. But I have a concern that once the highway opens, perhaps the school may need that space again. And I'm just wondering if it might work out that the village office is available in the future.
I know that they are working on it. They, I think, recently painted it, and they're prepping it for our use. We just need to finalize some of the paperwork associated with that.
Great. 2022, here we come. Yeah, thank you.
Committee member McGuire,
Thank you, Jessica, and ask my question.
thank you. Committee member McCann.
I had a question, I wasn't sure when to ask it. Someone asked me if this committee could have a representative at the table where all the people sit and decide what's gonna happen. She said the business people are there, the representatives from the village are there, everybody is there, but there is no citizens from Litten there. And I don't know, I can't remember what you guys call that committee, like, I don't know all your names for all your different groups. But it's like,
There's a million.
it's the table of everybody who knows what's going on, and it would be nice to have a citizen at it.
Madam CAO or Madam Recovery Manager, do you want, can we get an answer to that?
Can you recap the question?
Oh, no, I'm gonna.
It was, well, there was, one of the citizens emailed me and said, can you ask if the Citizens Advisory Committee can have a representative from their committee sit at the table with this, I don't know what you call it, it's a panel.
It's called the Litten Interagency update. And basically what it is there's 87 people on that call. And they represent all of the First Nations, BC Hydro, the Ministry of Transportation, TELUS, a number of related agencies that each in turn give their update. I don't think it would be an issue to have a member of the CAC on that committee, but I think we need to take that away and discuss that, if that's okay.
Okay, me, I'm just passing on the message.
You bet.
Committee member Michelle,
I was just wondering, what is the unmet needs committee's role? Like, what will be done through
Absolutely.
that committee?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the intention of the Unmet Needs Committee is to look at how the donations have been, will be distributed and make recommendations to council on that issue. The Unmet Needs Committee will also be making recommendations to council, well, providing guidance on towards the NGO working groups, so like the Red Cross and that sort of thing. They will also be looking at sort of providing oversight to the volunteer group.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
anything else?
That's it.
Last committee member Taylor.
No questions.
No question. Thank you, Madam Recovery Manager, and allow us to go on now to 4.2. Madam Recovery Manager, are you looking now for 4.2, communication to and from the committee?
No, I believe that was added to the agenda in response to committee member Lightfoot's request last week, or last meeting rather. And that was an opportunity for committee members to share any questions or updates or concerns or questions they had with respect to the CAC itself.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I'll go around the room and you go last this time.
Would that be helpful, do you think, after Mr. Dickinson's presentation?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So we'll defer 4-2 until after 5-1. So I will turn it over to Madam Recovery Manager to introduce Mr. Dickinson, the Director of Development to the group.
Absolutely, I'm happy to. I don't unfortunately have Ms. Ron's resume in front of me, but he can perhaps give a short introduction. But very happy to have Ron Dickinson as our Development Director for the Village of Lytton. He has extensive experience in the development of bylaws and permitting processes for a number of municipalities, and I will turn the hot seat over to Mr. Dickinson now.
Thank you, Ellison and Mr. Chair. Yeah, I won't expand too much on my experience, but I've been in a lot of different sizes of community. I worked in the smallest community in BC at the time, and I guess it might be almost the same size as Lytton. It was in Wells. It's 250 people when they formed up. And I was right there during the restructure committee and everything else, more or less in a similar role to what I'm doing here. And I've worked in Delta in the Lower Mainland and the City of Kelowna as a Director of Development Services and everything in between, including a lot of the flooded areas like Tulameen and Colmont and Princeton. So I've got a lot of those kinds of experiences. And I lived in Naramata for 20 years. And when I moved there, there was 850 people there. And when I left, it was 2,500. And during that process, I saw a lot of change, and I was involved in the advisory planning committee and the official community plan review and running the fire department and irrigation district and you name it. Anyway, so a lot of experiences. That's enough said. So I see on the agenda, number 5, the building bylaw is the title, but 5.1 is the official community plan. So, and I've kind of looked at the minutes from the last meeting, and I see there's a lot of mixed issues under different titles. And I just thought it might be a good idea if I just took a minute to talk about the sort of 3 main things: the official community plan, the zoning bylaw, and the building bylaw. They're kind of like 3 toolboxes that have purposes that are different from one another, but related. The official community plan is like a visionary statement that is supposed to be a view of what the community today thinks the community will look like in 20 years from now. And after that's been established, it's to be revisited every 5 years or so. That's an objective, not a law. So look back at it every 5 years to see where it would look like 20 years from that point. That's its main purpose. And once it's established, the zoning requirements, which are really the current day land use requirements, are based on what the official community plan expects the land to be used for over the going out to the 20-year period. So let's just, in simplest of terms, say there's a number of lots in the official community plan are for residential use. The zoning bylaw, if somebody wanted to create a new lot or do something with the lot, if they wanted to turn it into or create a residential lot, they could do that under the zoning bylaw, and that would be the day-to-day regulation that says that's what you can use the land for, period. If the official community plan said that that was not intended to be residential, it was intended to be commercial, they couldn't modify the zoning bylaw, council couldn't, until they modified the official community plan. So while it's a 10-year or 20-year document, it can be adjusted whenever council sees fit. So you can make some changes to the official community plan, make changes to the zoning bylaw as council sees fit. And that's the 2 uses, and that's how they're linked together. So the real day-to-day thing that everybody looks at, can I put my drugstore on this lot? You look at the zoning bylaw, it says, yes, you can. If it says no, then there's a process to go through. And like every other rule that a municipality has, they're established, the authority to create them is established by the provincial government. So once council decides to make a change, there's a whole bunch of regulations that the provincial government says you have to go through. So those are the machinations without getting deep into how it all works. And then you have the building bylaw, which on the face of it is pretty clear. It's about building, approving applications and monitoring the development based on the application to make sure the building is what it was intended for and that it's going to meet the minimum standard the province has, which is the BC Building Code, and have a normal lifespan that's expected from them under those standards. So Lytton has all those three bylaws in place and valid bylaws today. They have an official community plan, they have a zoning bylaw, and they have a building bylaw in place today that are totally functional. They also have a proposed new building bylaw, which had first reading. And there's some significant differences between those two bylaws, but I'm sure everybody's, or most people have sort of come to that conclusion already. At this point, we have three bylaws all linked together in different ways and all totally functional with intentions that have been expressed by council to change some of them. I think that maybe I would sort of entertain some questions from the floor at this point instead of digging down into the nitty-gritty. So at your choice, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand that task over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm just gonna go down our list again. Every time they throw me in the dark, this is where I've always been all my life. So, committee member Harrison, do you want to start us off?
Well, I'm just a little unclear about whether this question fits in there or not. So because at the last meeting, which I wasn't able to attend, there was a question about how a district energy system helps achieve net zero. Does that fit into this, what we're talking about?
Sure, why not? It's definitely addressed in the proposed building bylaw. And
Okay,
it will also need to be, there'll be parts of the zoning bylaw that would be used to establish that area as well. So again, that typical link. And so that's how it's going to be regulated. What it's intended to do is create an energy source that could be used to either to cool a building or to heat a building. So, and the idea is that you, through a mechanical device, let's say it's heating season, you run liquids from the district energy system through the mechanical device. It takes heat out of the liquid and puts it into the air in the building, and the air is warmed through that process. It's a common process. Yeah, okay.
I do understand how the system works, but my question was, so if that fits into that bylaw, which I read it in the bylaw, is there a timeline on that central system is what we're wondering. So if this bylaw doesn't pass with this, or if it does pass with this district energy in it, is there a timeline on how quickly that's going to be in operation? Because I see in that bylaw that we have to tap in there, whether we like it or not, once the system is in place.
Okay, a few points there, but the tapping in part, there's a statement in the bylaw that says that if you are geographically located in order to be able to tap in, then you have to tap in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, yeah, so it also says in the bylaw that we need to establish the boundaries of the area that the system's going to be in, and then install the system. But before we do that, we have to design the system. And there's another section in the bylaw that will require a sub bylaw that regulates the system. So there's, without putting a definite number on it, there's 5 or 6 steps between where we are today with the first reading adopted by council and where we will be on the day that everything in the bylaw is running. Is there a timeline on that? No. And if you look at the original council preamble to their decision on July the 12th, they said that they know that it's going to require significant financial input to get this into a condition that they want it to be in. And that the adoption of the bylaw is based on the principle that they need to find other sources of income to pick or of capital to create this system. And it mentions federal and provincial sources and others. So I didn't see anything about a deadline. There's no fundamental deadline that's legislated. So if there was a deadline, it could be established by Lytton Council or not. But I mean, it's not etched in stone, and there's a lot of variables. So I don't think there's a deadline. No.
So if it went ahead with that central system, and we go in there and rebuild our homes and say we put in a different system, that's at our expense. And then are we going to have to pay for the putting in the other system as well? Because we're obligated to tap in.
Those kind of details would have to be in the bylaw that supports the system, the regulations, but it does say you have to tap in. So presumably you would have to pay a fee of some sort for the opportunity to tie in. That's the same as if you have a water line running across your property, but you don't want to use it. You still have to pay something towards it. Same with sewer systems, and this is in the same venue as those things. So presumably the answer is yes. It's not written down. It's not in a bylaw, proposed bylaw at this point, that particular question that you're asking about paying for it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Committee member Hogan.
Ian Ron's got his hand up too.
Who?
Matuzzi's got his hand up too.
So can somebody unmute Mr. Matuzzi? Maybe we'll leave him muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify that the whole district energy was part of an application provided by, I think it was Councillor Gray to Infrastructure Canada some time ago, along with a number of things. At this point in time, no funding has been approved for that. And generally speaking, it may be very difficult. I mean, you never say never, but normally DMAF type grants pay for damage to your infrastructure. So if your wastewater treatment plant was damaged, they would pay to fix it. What they wouldn't pay for was an upgrade. So if you didn't have a district energy system, under the normal rules of DMAF, it is very unlikely that they'd pay for it. Having said that, I guess it doesn't hurt to ask, but generally speaking, they do not fall under those rules. Now, the funding might be available from some other source that I'm not aware of, but they would need to have that funding in place. And I would suggest we need to know that, and a very big decision would be have to make, just for Ollie's question, that at the point in time when people started getting ready to design their homes and take out building permits, I think it would be we need to know if there was district energy or not. So that question will have to be dealt with sooner than later, ultimately by council, and what kind of bylaw they want to put in place. But to date, there's been no funding allocated, and I've not heard back. And I said, generally speaking, that type of thing is not funded by DMAF. And I'd look to Leslie or Ellison to confirm. They both have different experience with the programs, one in Alberta, one in BC.
Madam CAO or Madam Recovery Manager, do you want to speak to it?
It's Leslie, the CAO. I would say I agree with Mr. Matuzzi, but with all the disasters that are happening, I would assume that either the provincial or federal government might look at changing their criteria, but that probably wouldn't happen within the next year.
Thank you. Committee member Lightfoot.
Thank you. Following up on the district energy system, if it was completely deleted from the bylaw and at some future date by chance or circumstance, the village was able to access funds to establish a district energy system, it could be added or amended to the building bylaw without one. Is that correct?
Yes, that you could definitely do that. And it could be a standalone bylaw, part of the building bylaw, it could be, but the municipality has the authority to create a bylaw, develop all the entire system, you know, when they please, now or later, yes.
And if I could have one more question?
Please.
Reviewing the bylaw, it seems that it must have come from somewhere, and I'm wondering, is there a staff person currently that's working on the bylaw? For instance, I saw a reference to gas, to district, to storm drain hookups. And I'm just wondering, is there a staff person that is been charged with working on the bylaw and this committee? So for example, if this committee gave a position of where they stand on various aspects, is there someone on staff that could rewrite that bylaw?
Yeah, there's no specific assignment, but yes, it's me that would be
Okay.
involved in that. So
Good to
whether
know.
I would actually rewrite it myself, no, I would do it, you know, basically what we want, run it through a legal mind that would make it legally viable, and come back to council with a recommendation to adopt it. So that's just lightly touching on how the process would work. It was interesting you mentioned about the gas. That was one of the surprises to me, that that whoever had thought of this thought we had gas. Well, we don't. So there's also, we could always use the propane system, but at the end of the day, the energy, the warmth or cooling of the energy isn't an absolute known. So they needed a heat source, and somehow or another that needs to be addressed as well. So there's a whole litany, like I say, of 5 or 6 different levels that we need to do, but it could be done, and it could be done anytime. The difficulty in it is that at some point you're going to have to dig up the street, all the streets within the energy area.
The other point they mentioned was the homeowner was responsible for connecting water and sewer, which has historically been the case, but they also talked about connecting storm water to the storm drains, and that has never been part of the Litten scenario in the past. So again, I'm not sure where the bylaw originated, but there are numerous discrepancies and issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad you're there to do it. Thank you.
Oh, me too. No, I mean, it is a draft, and I'm not going to call it a rough. It sets out very clearly what the objectives are, but getting to the end of the road in Lytton wasn't totally anticipated by the draft. And fair enough. I mean, it's early days in that process. And it truly is, and it will take a long time to get even all the paperwork done to give the direction to create the energy system. So there's a timeline there that's not predictable, not viably predictable.
I don't want to monopolize and go on too long, but I have one more question. So given that this bylaw is just being considered and people are wanting to get demolition and building permits in the next year, if this bylaw hasn't gone through, can they still have a building permit in adherence to the previous building bylaw? Or I believe that they said there were to be no building bylaws given out until this bylaw was dealt with. In which case, I guess I just want to make the point that it is somewhat imperative that this move along at a good speed. Your comments?
Well, these are all choices ultimately to be made by council, and their direction is the direction we're going to go. So I'm not going to presuppose what their decisions on that might be. But today, as the way the law works today, there is a building bylaw in place. It was adopted in 2018, and it's still there. And it hasn't been, there's been no move that I can find in any agendas or minutes to that would have removed the authority of the bylaw, which is the authority to issue building permits or demo permits.
Okay,
But
thank you.
yeah, but the rest of it is subject to council's decision. So
Thank you. I give my time over. Thank you.
The next 3 questions.
You want more? No.
Well, noting what Ron said about the no funding from the one thing for the district energy. But when you look at this, this is part of building back better, and then you would, where Jeswa mentioned to relook at it again, then you would have to dig up everything again and start over. So I don't see that happening. And then I also want to know, like James Hay works for Colliers International. Did you hire the company or did you make a contract with him? And is his role going to be posted on the village website, his roles and responsibilities?
Mr. Chairman, that's not a question for me. Maybe you can redirect it.
We get any of the staff that can supply committee member Hogan with an answer?
With respect to Mr. Hay,
James Hay?
James Hay, yeah. Yeah, he is a project manager with extensive experience in municipalities. We looked at a number of firms and we made a decision based on his experience. And the resources that he was able to bring to the community and to this particular project.
I was asking if the duties and the roles and responsibilities were going to be posted on your website.
I think it wouldn't be an issue to post his scope of work from his contract.
Okay, then, have we done?
I'll make committee member Lightfoot, but she'll pass. Committee member McGuire?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I've talked to a number of people about this bylaw and provided it to a few people. And on the most part, other than some massaging of the words that are in there, like the gas and those kinds of things, that people felt that if the district energy system part was gone and we were going to step code 3, that everybody would be just fine with this bylaw. Everybody that I talked to.
So, Councillor Hay, I can't hear people in the room. Is there a way that we can? Yeah, that would be better.
Ollie, what I said was I provided the potential bylaws to people and I've heard back from a number of people. And what they said is if the district energy system was just completely removed from it and the step code was going to be to 3, which is going to be mandatory next year anyways, that on the most part, everybody would be just fine with that.
And I would be one that would throw my hat in that ring.
Mhm.
Did you get your hand up, Committee Member Lightfoot?
No.
Am I making too much noise or why do you keep calling my name?
Just so fast there, your hands are flying everywhere. I didn't know you were doing pantomime
I'm trying to take notes.
Okay.
And pick up my glasses. Thank you. Sorry.
tonight. Okay. Member McCann?
Hi, thank you, Chairperson. My questions were pretty much along the lines like Mr. Dickinson. You sound like it's a fait accompli, and you scare me when I hear you talk that way. I've got to say that. I'm sorry, but you scare me because I haven't heard a lot of people, except maybe John over here, is the first time I've heard an actual person from Litten in support of the district energy part of the bylaw.
Yeah.
I hear what he's saying. I understand the retooling and being ready for the future. I'm just not convinced that that is the best and most practical thing for Litten right now. And I wonder if there's any other way that things could go that would move things along quickly for people and be more acceptable for people. So that's, I'm not sure that's a question to you, but that I think is the challenge that we have right now. That's all.
Mr. Chair, can I address that comment, please?
Lost your
I don't, the last thing I want to do is scare anybody. So let's get that one off the table. I didn't mean to say anything or intend to do that. But what I was saying is these are choices that council can make. And at this point, I'm not advising them. I'm just, if they have an interest in doing something, I'll provide whatever information they need about that interest. And the choice is entirely and completely theirs. And I won't do anything that adds weight from my point of view to that decision. I will just provide information. So the reality is there's an existing building bylaw in place and there's another one proposed by council. And if council wants more information about either one of them, I'll be able to give it to them. So I don't favor anything particularly. It's up to council to make these decisions. And so that's, I hope that clarifies things. Thanks.
Yep, it does.
Committee Member Michelle?
I actually have lots of questions regarding the district energy system, but some of them have been answered. But my main concern, so Councillor Gray put together a proposal for funding towards the district energy system. I've done proposals for governments. Those take months to get responses, and they're usually funded in phase, or funding approval is done in phases. So I'm just wondering, like, we are 5.5 months into my 24-month term for insurance to be completed my build. You know, we're at what, day 169. How long do you plan on waiting to get this approved funding before deciding to just scrap the district energy system and let us build?
Mr. Chair, is that question directed at me?
Well, I'm hoping it's not directed at me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I don't have a plan. This is council's plan, not staff, not me particularly, or any staff person that I'm aware of. Council have these objectives that they've put on the table, they've made them public, and they're out there, and they have all the interest they ever had, I presume, in pursuing them, but I don't know that. So they've given the new bylaw that we're all talking about here first reading. Well, it needs 3 more before it's a bylaw with any effect. And that's not, again, anything that I have any control over. It's just, I'm here to help them, you, or whoever. So you are the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I'll give you whatever information I can possibly give. If you ask a question, I'll give you an answer, and if I don't have it, I'll find it. And that's all I can really offer to you or council or the public in general, actually.
Thank you.
Okay, one other question, is the living community status still being proposed as well? It was in the motion that was passed for the new bylaw. The original in July, I believe it was.
I don't have an answer to that, but I'd be more than happy to figure it out and get back to you.
Okay. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Committee Member Taylor,
No questions, mine were answered.
thank you. And finally, Committee Member Baxter.
I think this might have been more of a question for Allison during the short-term recovery plan. So I don't want to interrupt. It would just be a bit of a backtrack. So,
I'm happy to answer any questions.
I guess just within the short-term recovery plan, I've been speaking to some other specific renters in the village. And most of the renters that I've spoken to in the past week have expressed little to no support from ESS or the Red Cross. And these are specifically renters that stayed in the area. And so I'm just wondering if that's something that this committee or the village could address in the short term of how the renters from the village have been lacking resources since the fire.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear that. They feel they're not being supported. So I know that the Red Cross is going to be at the Resiliency Center on from the 20th to the 23rd of December. I'm not able, unfortunately, to speak to what specific supports the Red Cross is offering, because that's done on an individual case-by-case basis. But I would strongly encourage anyone with questions to go meet with the Red Cross one-on-one. That's why they're there at the Resiliency Center.
Yeah, most of the concerns I've been hearing have been renters who spoke with the Red Cross. Like renters
Okay.
who spoke with the Red Cross and are not being provided any support with them, specifically Village of Lytton renters. About 4 people now that I've spoken to about
Okay.
that.
Okay. Let me take that away if I could, and I'll try and get back to you on that. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
Madam Recovery Manager, when you do that, can you info everybody on the committee so we're all kept up to speed, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I knew you were going to do it anyway, but I just thought I know what I'm talking about here today.
Fair enough.
A question I've got, and if Madam CAO or Mr. Matusi can chime in. I think one of the biggest things we're having a problem with this district energy system is that the residents do not understand the bylaw process. Okay, and that is an introduction out there. You could end up building all log cabins by the time we get to 4th reading. It can go to 4th reading and be reverted back to 1st reading again. And I think a lot of the people that have come my way said, you put it out there, that's law, we got to do it. And that's not the bylaw system. Could you speak a bit to that, Madam CAO? No voice.
Are you speaking, you're asking me to speak to what the process of a bylaw adoption is?
I think people think that the 1st reading locked everything up in law, and it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, so 1st reading is just an introduction to what the bylaw itself. 2nd reading says that council is good with the 1st reading, or they might have even asked staff to go back and adjust the bylaw from 1st reading. 3rd reading is saying that they're supporting the bylaw. There's one last chance to amend that bylaw. And then final adoption is the final step of putting a bylaw into law for the municipality.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tucci, got anything to add to that? He's not asleep.
So once the bylaw is adopted, it has to be a formal amendment. So it comes back as an amendment with first, second, third reading again, and so on.
Thank you. Mr. Tucci, got anything to add to that? No, he's good. Who?
I believe you're unmuted, Mr. Matuzzi.
Where are you at? Have you got your hand up? Please speak.
Yes.
Yep. You're not speaking, Joshua.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So I just wanted to draw the committee's attention to point 12 of the December 1st, was it, meeting? And when the question came before, I believe it was Mr. Deeks, about how is an energy system, how will it help achieve net zero? His response was, keep it simple. A DES is expensive to design and install. Using the step code, the new buildings don't use much heat, so they don't spend a ton of money on, a fancy system. And for a local government, everybody pays the operations and maintenance costs, and it would be better for individuals to manage their own system, which gives them flexibility to choose what is best. In addition to the other speakers that we heard, I believe at our meeting and at the regular council meeting later that day, there also seems to be, if you want to adhere to net zero, there's a greater understanding now that building materials need to be considered, in that some building materials, I believe Mr. Deeks said, could take 200 years to net zero, just because of their composition and manufacturing process. So everyone that knows me knows that I've been an environmentalist for 60 years or so. And I like the idea of net zero, but I think the individual flexibility of having your own net zero home at this stage in the development is something that we should consider. And if the district energy comes along later, perhaps, I'm not sure if it would be a hot water or an electrical connection, but we're talking about underground power systems and plumbing. Perhaps as the village designs its infrastructure, that is something that the village municipality should consider. And really, it's not the homeowner per se that should be overly bothered by it. Just comment. I don't know if anyone wants to respond. That's.
So that was the question I was referring to when I asked my question. And I thought that Ron had answered it, in that we would have to hook into that system if that goes in that bylaw, and it would be at our expense, even though we had put in our own individual systems already. Am I correct on that, Ron?
That seems to be what the bylaw says at the moment, yes.
So I guess that I'm wondering, just to follow up with what Jessa was saying, she had mentioned taking that out of there altogether. So that's where I'm at now. I'm wanting to know, how do we take that out of there? And I thought I heard the CAO say we would have to go through steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then amend the bylaw. Can we not amend the bylaw before we go through?
Madam CAO.
Yeah, no, sorry. So first reading, you can amend it all you want. Second reading, you can amend it all you want. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks
No problem.
for clarifying that, yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to see at before we go any further with that bylaw is having that step taken out of there, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you very much. Madam CEO, correct me if I'm wrong when I speak, please, because I'm going to take off my chair hat and put on my counselor hat. The way to get your bylaw changed is start phoning your counselor and put a bug in his ear or her ear, and then they will go to Mr. Dickinson and say, hey, what can we do here, man? You're the expert. I've made it quite plain. I don't know anything about building houses. I live in them. I don't know anything about cars. I drive them. And we need the experts to tell us, but the people should be telling us what they want. That's why you elected us in there, so you can pick up the phone and phone me and I carry your wishes to the council.
That's correct. And we had talked at the town hall meeting where we were, normally you don't actually have to do that with a building bylaw, but in this case, we felt that it would be really important to do at least 2 town hall type style meetings where people would be able to provide their input into the building bylaw process.
I
Thank you.
understood that that was what this committee was for. That's, we're gonna talk to the citizens, see what they want, bring it back
That's
here,
And then
telling what they want. So I think that's what we're doing loud and clear today, is saying that.
Yeah. So that's correct. You will, the CAC committee does that, but you also, in most cases, do need to reach out to a wider community. Not saying you don't represent the community, please don't take that. But sometimes there's people that will come to a public meeting and they'll say their thoughts, but they haven't actually said it to the committee. It's just an opportunity to make sure that everybody has their ability to speak if they want to, and they may feel that the Citizens Advisory Committee is the only avenue that they really want to go to. And that's why you're an important committee to the community.
Thank you, Madam CEO.
And of course, if any committee members want to hear from any of the experts or any additional experts that we might be able to bring forward, we've heard from the acting executive director of the Building Standards Branch. We've heard from Mr. Deeks with the Step Code Council. We've heard from Mr. Dickinson, of course, and anybody that you think might help to inform you or any further information, or if you'd like any of those people to come back, if you have any additional questions, please let us know, and we're happy to facilitate that.
Thank you very much, Madam Recovery Manager. I think that's what we're going to do. We'll be conveying by email to get a list of people, different things we do, because we still got to get to our residents to find out what they want. Okay, they're not all just wanting the building code one done. There's people wanting ESS. There's people, lots of people can't get a mortgage anymore because they're old like me. So we need a lot of help out there, and so we'll put together a fairly good list, and maybe you can help bring the people to us. So, Mr. Dickinson, are you finished? Yes, you got some more you'd like to talk to us about?
I already set the cat amongst the pigeons, so maybe I should just bow out as gracefully as I can get.
Thank you very much. So we're going to back up to 4.2, communication to and from the committee. I'll pass that back to Madam Recovery Manager.
Well, this is, I guess, just an opportunity for committee members to share any questions or additional perhaps resources they would like to hear from again, or resources you'd like to hear from going forward at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay. Starting off, we'll have committee member Lightfoot with her 30-second assertion.
Okay, 30 seconds, don't count yet. I'm just wondering, Allison, I believe that Robert at the previous meeting was talking about establishing guidelines and, or not guidelines, but timelines. And I think it's important to know, I think the committee anticipated that we were getting the bylaw. I never really saw it delivered, but that's, you know, a moot point. But
I do think in that email I sent with all of the links, Included in that was a link to all of the existing bylaws of the village of Lytton. So it was on there.
No, but I meant a timeline for our goal, to set goals so that, say, by the end of January, we had the bylaw ready to go to council or whatever. You know, we're working within a larger organization and we're not always aware of the timeliness of our activities. And also the comment was made among a few of us that we've scheduled 2 meetings a month, but if we really need to meet a deadline, we could have a discussion, maybe a meeting every week if it's necessary to get it done in time. We don't want to be rushed in our deliberations, I guess is the comment. So I think he was referring to meeting with the new CAO and establishing some sort of outline on expectations for our group. So just keeping it on the burner.
You bet.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that was 30 seconds, Ian.
Yeah, battery's running low. My gosh, that's my pacemaker.
How low are we? Uh-oh.
My question before with regards to communication and how we operate this committee was, number one, I wanted to know how we get things onto the agenda, and you answered that in your first comment. And the other thing was, when I looked at the short-term recovery draft plan, there's a lot of things going on at once. And I just kind of felt like it would be nice to have a sense of how are we addressing A, B, C, D, E, and F while we're working on C, for example, right? So there's a number of things going on. What are the priorities for this group? And like Jess was said, and how are we going to address those priorities so that we're not only focusing on the bylaw, maybe there's a couple other things that need to get dealt with. And I'm a little concerned with just kind of drifting off in one direction and making sure we stay focused on the intention of the group and be productive as possible. And that's probably
and we are working on the new terms of reference for the CAC, and we will be able to provide, you know, that draft to you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Committee member Michelle.
No questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Committee member Taylor.
I have no questions.
Sure, you're the best guy I got. Committee member Baxter.
Most of my focus tape.
No questions.
Well, I've got one query on communications, and I'm just trying to figure out, because I get a lot of stuff as a counselor, and if it's not what I call confidential and that stuff, like today when I get the recovery update, can that be passed out to this committee so they're kept abreast of things?
Yes, it can be. We just like to get it to the mayor and council first, and then it can definitely go on the committee agenda. Yeah.
So maybe,
And or it can be emailed out to the committee tomorrow if Allison would like to do that.
you can do it, or I can do it myself. You ladies are very busy. I don't mind doing that. They can look at my hand scratching on it. I just wanted to make sure, because yeah, we have to appreciate the fact, pardon me, I start to appreciate the fact I sit in council, I'm abreast of some other things that these people know nothing about. And we gotta have this committee, has gotta be know almost everything that's going on. So
Yep.
we're all speaking the same language.
So yeah, so let's, Allison, can you commit to send it out? It's just attaching it, Councillor Hay, to an email.
I'll do it tonight
Okay.
after a meeting. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the highlight of the meeting, the adjournment. Somebody
I've
want-
got a short memory. When's the next meeting?
So the first and third Wednesdays of the month, I believe the next meeting would be January 5th.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Allison.
For the people that are listening in and for people that are strange in town, just when I joke, I was a CEO for 4 years. So we get along together good and have a few good laughs together. So I got need an adjournment. Don't fight for it.
I'll do it.
Committee member McGuire moves that we adjourn. Before we shut the whole thing down, I'd like to thank Mr. Dickinson for taking the time. Also for our staff, okay, because this is a lot of time. We got another meeting tonight to go to. And for all the people out there, please get a hold of me and let's get our communication going well with the people. This is your chance to get this town built your way. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Nice seeing you all.
We're
Well.
Oh, in the blue bin under that table there.